Hey everyone, welcome to the more detailed look at the Greycloak of Evereska. Okay, as stated before, this is a fighter bard build with 9 levels of fighter, 3 levels of bard. You can do this with 8 levels of fighter and 4 levels of bard. I just went 9 and 3 just for this particular build, but either one works. But I'll show you the 9 and 3 one. So to start off, first of all, ignore the fact that this is the drow. This is my character that's further along the game. So she's the character that's going to demo the weapons and things that you can find. So we're going to be starting with fighter. I would recommend going with, for fighting style, I went with defense, but archery, defense, or 2-weapon fighting all work. It's largely going to depend on how you want to play this game. Now, for 2-weapon fighting, there are gloves you can find that will help out with this, but we'll get into that a little bit later. For background, I would recommend going with the soldier. Now, for your ability spread, this is the spread of the abilities right here. 10 strength, 17 dexterity, 12 constitution, 12 intelligence, 12 wisdom, 13 charisma. The idea behind this build is the Greycloak. She's a character that she's one of them that's being sent out as an agent to acquire information, to figure out what's happening outside of Evereska. So she has a certain amount of knowledge and conversational skills. So that is why these stats are a little bit higher. These are not min-max stats. This is very much a roleplay character if you feel like role-playing this particular character. I would suggest grabbing things like athletics, insight, acrobatics if you want. Those are all kind of good starting things to grab. Now let's hop into the levels. All right, so level 2 is going to be pretty standard. It's going to be our fighter level 2. Level 3, we get access to Arcane Archer. Cantrips, I'd recommend going with guidance. Any of the shots work, so it's largely going with what you feel great going with. I went with bursting arrow, seeking arrow, and piercing arrow to start. All right, for our first feat, we're going to round out some ability scores, taking dexterity up to 18, charisma up to 14. Level 5, we get our second attack. All right, level 6, we get another feat. So you have a few options of what you can do here. You can push dexterity up to 18 at this point. I would say alert is a pretty good feat to go with. It's the +5 initiative. You can't be surprised. If you are a dual wielder, you can grab the dual wielding feat. And also mobile tends to be a pretty good one to interact with. I usually go with alert for this stage. All right, level 7, we get our magic arrow. So our arrows are now considered magical to overcome resistance. Curving shot, we can burn a bonus action to curve an arrow. As for our next shot, let's say we go with, well, let's just go with grasping arrow. So level 8, this is where we're going to actually swap over to bard. So cantrips, I'd recommend taking friends and whatever else. If you are on higher difficulties, though, just be careful when you're using friends, because it will make people upset. For spells, go with utility. Speak with animals is okay. Long strider is always a pretty good utility spell. And same with featherfall. Instrument, whatever you feel like. For our skill, I would go with persuasion to represent just our information collecting. Next level bard, it's giving us jack of all trades. Once again, spells, it's just whatever you feel like taking. All right, third level of bard. this is where we get our subclass. So same thing with spells here. So what we're going to do, College of Lore. So like I said, this character is a very worldly character. They collect a lot of information. They know a lot of things. That's why the College of Lore perfectly fits what she's doing. So we're going to want to come in here, and for the abilities, let's say we go, I would say stealth works for this character. We do want to take investigation. From here, you can take sleight of hand, functions well, acrobatics functions well. If you want performance, I don't think it works as well, but it depends on the kind of character you're rolling. I'm going to say we're going to take sleight of hand. For our proficiencies, the expertise that we get here, we're going to take this off intimidate. We're going to keep persuasion as one of our expertise. The other expertise we can either drop on insight, perception, investigation, stealth. So it depends on how you want to roleplay what this character is really good at. We're going to say this character is good at reading people, so she's going to have expertise and insight. All right, this is where I said if you wanted to, you could go with a level 4 bard and gain the extra feat. I just happened to go full on fighter. So we're going to go back to fighter. This is where I would take my capping out dexterity for 20. And the last level, I take another level in fighter just to round it out. Like I said, if you want to, you can also go with bard. That's going to largely be just personal choice, but either one of them works. All right, in terms of items, you have a few choices here. So we're going to start with the armor. So for armor, this is if you want a interesting RP option. You find the Elven Chain in Act 3 in a store in Rivington. It looks really nice. The downside is the stats aren't as great because it's 14 armor class and it restricts your dexterity. It does give you the +2 initiative bonus though. So it's going to largely depend on, do you really want to roleplay, or you want something more, that more utility. Now, when it comes to options with more utility, we have 2 other medium armor options. So the first one we'll say is the Yonti scale mail right here. You can find this in Act 2. It's a scale mail. It's medium armor. It allows you to put your full dexterity into your armor class, and it does not give you disadvantage on stealth ability checks, along with the +1 to initiative rolls. So I would say this is definitely a good one to pick up. And similar, there's the Unwanted Masterwork scale mail that you find in Act 3. So it adds 1 more AC. You get fire resistance along with it. You do lose out on the extra, the +1 initiative. But like I said, we've taken alert if you fault the build, so we already have the +5. So we're more or less set between the +5 and the fact we have 20 dexterity. But those are kind of options that you can go with. So just a few things. Now, when it comes to the gloves, I'm wearing the flawed Helldust gloves. These are adding, so it adds 1 to 4 fire damage to all of my weapons. So whether I'm using a sword, whether I'm using a bow, all of them get a little bit extra damage to go along with it. It also gives the +1 to strength saving throws. If you would like to dual wield, there are gloves with the balanced hand. So this gives you the 2 weapon fighting feat. So it allows you to add your ability modifier to an offhand attack. So this is another option if you want to do that. Now for the boots, I'm wearing the boots of persistence. Oh, and the masterwork armor. You get this from Act 3 in Damon. If he has survived, because this is the tiefling blacksmith that you find in the druid camp in Act 1. If he survives every act, you'll find him in Act 3 with a store, and he will sell you this armor. Now, these boots of persistence, these are also from him. I grab these because they give you freedom of movement along with long strider. These are medium armor boots. If you don't want these or can't get them, another option are the disintegrating night walkers. You get these in Act 1 down in the Underdark from Nier. These will last you all game. This is usually a pair of boots that either my character's wearing or I have a companion wearing them. In this case, I've had Shadowheart wearing these. I mean, you can't be enwebbed, entangled, ensnared. You can't slip grease or ice. And you have a Misty Step cast. They're really solid boots. So you can go with these if you don't. Like, these can be what you wear until you can get up into the later acts to find more boots. Now, for the swords, you definitely want a finesse weapon. I'm using the Balar Louvre. This is the sword from the Underdark. Another example of a finesse weapon you can use is this short sword, sort of life stealing. Also, if you are dual wielding, you may want to find the Gleam Dance dagger. This dagger, if it's in your offhand, it gives you a +1 bonus to armor class. So definitely, if you're dual wielding, I'd say pick up the Gleam Dance dagger. Or to skip back up to helmets, I kind of want to make an honorable mention. So I'm still wearing the Intellect headband, which gives you the 17 intelligence. I just kind of wear that as an RP thing. But if you're looking for something that can be a bit more substantial for this particular build, for example, the Grayskull helm, you get this down in the Underdark from the Gem Forge. I believe it's from the Gem Forge. So essentially, if you're wearing this, enemies cannot land critical hits on you, and it gives you Hunter's Mark. So that's an option if you want to put that on. Moving over to the bow, I'm using the Deadshot. This is a bow you find in Act 3. So before Act 3, you can use regular longbows. You can always find the Titan string bow, which I believe is bought from the Zentarum. That's a popular one that a lot of people like taking because it lets you add your strength bonus to it. However, do remember that this is a 10 strength build, so we don't have a strength modifier to add to that unless you do something like drink a heal giant strength potion. So if you drink one of those, you get something extra. But any kind of longbow or even some of the heavy crossbows will work as you're making your way up. But I would recommend when you get to Act 3, you grab this. Makes it easier to get critical hits, and you add double your proficiency bonus as long as you don't have disadvantage. So it's a pretty good bow. Accessories, I would say, are largely up to you. I'm wearing the Corvid token. This automatically gives me Featherfall, so I always have Featherfall on, increases my jump and flying speed by 1.5. So in this character's case, since she does not fly, it's just increasing her jump. It also gives you a Dire Raven polymorph. I also have the Ring of Protection, and I'm using the Ring of Truthfulness for an advantage on insight checks, but like I said, those are largely depends on what you want to roll. I do have there are options you can find with if you want to use hand crossbows, but I really would suggest with this build to use longbows, because also what you're doing with this build and what you do want to pay attention to with a lot of the bows, you want to look at the maximum distance. The hand crossbows have a 15 distance, whereas your longbow has 18. So longbow is more of like a kind of like a sniper type weapon. So I would recommend grabbing a longbow for these builds. All right, that wraps up this more detailed look into the Greycloak of Evereska. It's a pretty fun build. Like I said, there are small areas that you can tweak depending on how you want to play, or if there's different items you want to use, or if there are items you can't find, because depending on what's going on in your run. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. And I'd also love to hear what you think of this build, or what you think of me creating longer explanation videos to go along with the short videos that I put up on the YouTube Shorts. If you're interested in more Baldur's Gate videos or adjacent games, because I do play a few other games that I occasionally post on the channel talking about them, be sure to subscribe so you can be notified when any of those go live. Thank you again for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next video.